Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. You will be learning about the Pythagorean Theorem and you will be able to work on 6.6. Today students will be able to find a side by using the Pythagorean Theorem. And it's just so that you can see the difference between having, from the other, having an angle in one side, and in here you're going to have two sides. But before we start, I'm going to sketch a triangle, a 90 degree, with a 90 degree angle, a right triangle. And what the Pythagorean theorem says that if you square all three sides, basically, meaning you find kind of like the area of a square formed by those three sides. Okay. So basically you're squaring A, B, and C. And the area in here is A squared, because A times A is A squared. B, so the area in here is B squared. So area equals area equal. And then in here, C times C is C squared. Okay, so that's the area. And so what Pythagoras found is that when you add these two areas, you get the area of this bigger triangle. Triangle square. So again, A squared plus B squared gave C squared. And so I heard from one of my students the song A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And so that's what the Pythagorean theorem is. And we're going to be using it to find, if we're given two sides, we can find the third one. And so from previous lessons, you have learned that the longest side is called the hypotenuse. So C is always the hypotenuse. And A and B can be switched. It doesn't matter if this is B squared and this is A squared, but this one has to be always the hypotenuse, always C. Okay? Okay. So we're going to start by putting the formula. The Pythagorean theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And so A refers to one of the two sides forming the 90 degree angle. So in this case, it's going to be 2 square plus 2 square equals C square will be X square. And so 2 square is 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And X square can be, we can't do anything, so we're just going to leave it like that. So in here, we're going to have X squared is equals to 4 plus 4 is 8. And so the next step is to, the opposite of the square is to take the square root. And if I do it on one side, I have to do it on the other side. These cancel each other and I get X equal. In here, in my calculator, I'm going to press 8 and then the square root. So I'm going to get 2.83. I'm going to put 83 meters. So I'm rounding to the hundredths. And the thousands, it's a unit bigger than 5. 5 and up adds 1 to the hundreds, okay? So so this X is 2.83. Okay. So what did I press in I pressed 8 and just the square root. Some other calculators, I believe they have to do shift or second key, which is up here usually. It's either yellow or gray sometimes. And then they press X squared because down here you have the little square root. Then 8, then equal or close parentheses, I'm not sure, and then finally equal. So it all depends on what calculator you're using. you might have to use this route or this one. And then there are others that you just put second, that, and 8, and that, and it appears. Okay, so it all depends. So try different routes. Okay, so in here, again, we're given two sides, but now they're giving us the hypotenuse. In here, they gave us the two legs. In here, they're giving us the hypotenuse and one leg. So remember, the legs are always the ones that form the 90-degree angles, and those are A and B, and C is always the hypotenuse. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So we're gonna put, it doesn't matter which one, but I'm just gonna put 6 squared plus X squared equals 10 squared. Notice that when I have the hypotenuse and not one of the legs, I have numbers on one side and numbers on other. So I'm going to have to find or solve this equation. Okay, so 6 squared is 6 times 6, meaning 36. 10 times 10 is 100. I want to leave x by itself, so since I'm adding 36, the opposite is to subtract 36 from both sides. And so this cancels. And so x squared is equals to 4, 6. Now, again, we're subtracting because we are missing one of the legs, okay? Take the square root of both sides. And so my x is equals to, I already know that 8 times 8 is 64. But if you're not sure, you can always, again, go to your calculator, press 64, and then the square root. Or the other way around. Second, the square, because sometimes the square root is back there. And then the number 64 equal. Okay? So this is going to be x is equals to 8 centimeters. Okay, since this is kind of review, I think I'm going to go a little bit faster. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it's 3 squared plus 4 squared equals x squared. Hypotenuse always c. 3 squared is 9, because 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16 equals x squared. Since these are on the same side of the equal sign, I'm just going to add. I don't need to subtract. Okay, add them and I get 25. I take the square root of both sides. Since this is a perfect square, I already know that x is equals to 5, because what number multiplied times itself is 25? 5. It's going to be 5 inches. Don't forget to put the unit of measurement. Okay. Let's go to the next one. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So in here you have to be very careful. Again, a and b always form the right angle, so it's this and this. Okay, so what we don't have is the c, the hypotenuse. So in here we have 2 squared plus 7 squared equals x squared. And notice how I'm doing different shapes just so that you recognize A and B and C. Okay, so 2 squared means 2 times itself, 2 times, so it's 4. 7 multiplied by itself times itself 2 times, so it's 49 equals x squared. I add them because they're on the same side, and so 49 plus 4 is 53. To get the value of x by itself is taking the square root of both sides. I go to my calculator and I press 53 square root equals, oh, I just noticed that I didn't even have to press equal. Oh yeah, and I didn't put it in the notation, my goodness. So x is equals to 7.28 meters. Okay. Okay, let's do one more. If you need to copy it, make sure that you pause the video. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. These are a and b. So now I'm missing one of the legs. 3 squared plus x squared equals the longest one always by its side, on its own, 6 squared. 3 squared is 9 plus x squared equals 6 squared is 36. Remember, it's not 2 times 6. It's 6 times 6 this many times. I subtract 9 from both sides. X squared equals 27. And I go to the calculator and put 27 square root. Because I'm taking the square root of both sides. And so my answer is 5. Notice how the 6 is going to add 1 to the 9, but the 9 becomes a 10, so it affects the other number. So basically, to make it easier to understand, this is a 19. The 6 makes it go to 20, so I don't even need the 0 in there. So it's just going to be 5.2 miles. Why did I have to subtract? Because I don't have one of the legs, okay? If I'm missing the hypotenuse, I add them. If I'm missing one of the legs, I subtract. Okay, let's get one that is a little bit more interesting. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a and b are always the ones that form the right angle. So it's going to be x squared plus square root of 6 square, and you can put parentheses or not, it's up to you, equals 4 square. So x squared plus, in here remember that the square always cancels with the square root because that's what we've been doing in the last step up, but we end up with 6 only. Be careful, okay? Some people put 36 in here. No, that is part of the side of the length. This is part of the formula. They cancel each other, so you only end up with 6. Equals 4 squared is 16. I subtract 6 from both sides, and so x squared is equals to 10. But now we have to figure out x by itself, so we take the square root of both sides. That eliminates that square, and x is equals to 10 square root of that. It's 3.16 inches. Okay, make sure you write the unit of measurement. Okay, let's do one more. Before I do that, just be careful. If you have the square root in here in one of the sides, because of this square, that cancels, the square cancels the square root. Okay. Okay, one more, and actually has a square root as well. So you have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a is square root of 5, but then you square, again, it doesn't matter if you put the parentheses or not, 2 squared equals, and now we're missing the hypotenuse, which is x squared. These cancel each other, and so you get 5 only. 2 squared becomes 4, then x squared. 5 plus 4 is 9 equals x squared. If we have x squared, we need to take the square root of both sides to cancel that, but if we do it on one side, we do it on the other, and so x is, the square root of 9 is 3. So 3 feet. Okay, and with that, you're now able to work on 6.6. So have fun.